Recording now.
Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this introductory session from Implicit Bias to Explicit Action for Real Estate Agents, which was developed by CLIMB. CLIMB stands for Locking-out IMplicit Bias for Real Estate Agents, and it's a group that was started by Wanda and me, and we are two women who share that vision, among other things, but we'll share more about that later. So the next slide. We'll talk about what we're going to do today. So we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about why everyone's here. We're going to go over the CLIMB success formula. And then we're going to talk about our own individual plans as real estate agents for moving from implicit bias to explicit action. So we'll start by introducing your facilitators. Wanda, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can do that. I'm going to admit just a couple more people into the session here. Sure. And then I'll go ahead and get started.
Great.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Wanda Savage Moore, and I'm honored to be with you this afternoon. I've spent the last about 30 years of my career helping public, private sector organizations to achieve their diversity and inclusion goals. And I have been doing that as a consultant and a trainer. I have been, I guess I've probably trained and consulted and coached about 30,000 professionals throughout my career. I'm also an ICF certified coach, and my background originally started with a Fortune 100 company as an engineer. I am a mechanical engineering undergraduate and a master's in industrial engineer, and I am an entrepreneur, a published author, and I'm a wife and a mother. And when I'm not doing all those things, I'm hanging out with people like Lorraine and pursuing some of my other objectives, and looking forward to spending this afternoon with you guys and helping the CLIMB organization. So, Lorraine, you want to tell
Wanda. I'm delighted to be hanging out with you again and everyone else who's joined us today. So I am an associate broker with TTR Sotheby's International Realty. My personal motto is I move individuals and organizations to a better place. So I do that literally through real estate transactions and figuratively through coaching, consulting, and training such as this one. My 20+ years of real estate experience includes selling real estate franchises, handling mergers and acquisitions for Coldwell Banker, then later Prudential, which is now Berkshire Hathaway, as a residential and commercial property owner and managing those properties. I'm Virginia, DC, and Maryland licensed and globally connected. I am also an accredited coach by the International Coach Federation, which is what ICF is, what Wanda referred to earlier. And I focus specifically in executive life and strengths coaching. And Wanda and I have facilitated trainings together, particularly in the leadership development area for organizations such as the U.S. Department of Commerce, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and other government and non-government organizations. So I am glad now that we're facilitating training for the real estate industry. So Wanda, if you want to go to the next, let me just say, this is our first virtual training. So it's a little bit of an adjustment for us to go from the classroom and actually being with people to being with people on Zoom. But Wanda is our technical expert. So thank you so much, Wanda. So we're going to talk about climb. So our goal is to find and certify representatives who are dedicated to this mission, who will be dedicated to this mission throughout the United States and really throughout the world. I think we have some people from some other areas, from Mexico, maybe Costa Rica, we're planning on joining us. So hopefully they're on, but we'll find out during the intro section. So if we start at the bottom of the ladder and we move up, so it's consciously locking out implicit bias for real estate agents. So, so we hope that you will join us in making our piece of the world a better place. So Wanda, if you want to go to the next slide, this is where we will introduce ourselves. So in the chat, please put your name, your organization, and why you're here today. And then we'd like for a few of you to tell us so we can hear you and get to know each other better. So who would like to share? Melody, my colleague, might I ask you to unmute yourself so we can hear you?
Sure, no problem. Hi, I'm Melody Bella with TTR Sotheby's International Realty. I work with Elaine. I'm also in Virginia and DC. You know, I'm just on the call to learn more. We recently at the firm formed the Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Committee, and there's 3 different groups, and Elaine and I are in the same group together, helping to kind of spearhead this effort within the firm. And it's something I don't know a whole lot about. It's one of those you don't know what you don't know things, and that's why I'm here, because yeah, that's it.
Okay. Barbara, my real estate colleague, tennis friend from so many places. Why don't you share with us? And if you can move your screen a little bit, then we can see your whole beautiful face. I can see your eyes right now.
Oh, is that better?
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
So your company and you and
I'm with Washington Fine Properties. And the last several months, I've just been doing a lot of reading and just very interested in how to implement diversity. It just seems such a shame that I feel like we're still in the 60s.
Thank you.
I'd like to see change happen.
So Paul, since you're a mortgage with the mortgage industry, a little bit different focus. Why don't you share with us about your organization and why you're here?
Diversity is something I would love to learn more about, especially in our industry, because we have an enormous, just a large staff, and the goal is to make a difference for people's lives, our team, our clients, and our partners. And just by attending this and learning more, hopefully we can just move the ball forward to do a little bit more, making a difference, positive difference in people's lives. And I would love to have more feedback and more perspectives. So.
Great, welcome, Mickey. So I can't see everybody, so if we maybe take 1 or 2 more people who want to unmute yourself and say hello, that would be great. So
Anyone else?
Did Mickey want to say something? You're muted.
Well, I was going to say something, but Melody said exactly what I was going to say, because we're also colleagues. Sotheby's also on the new committee. And, you know, also this is not a topic I've spent a lot of time, you know, engaging with for, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever. I mean, for most of my life, I feel like I need to learn more. And so that's why I'm here, and I'm sorry I'm wearing like 3 sweatshirts, but the heat isn't working in my house.
It's okay.
I don't have work clothes on, I have sweatshirts on. All right.
Totally fine. We believe in being comfortable.
Setting this up, Lorraine, I'm looking forward to both you and Wanda's comments. Thank you.
Well, and thank you everyone for joining us. Did somebody else have something to say before I turn it over to Wanda? Okay, Wanda, take it away.
Okay, great. Let's move on. Well, we're going to use as the basis for today our climb success formula. And of course, as you can see below, a little formula. I guess it shows that I'm an engineer. A plus B plus C plus DE leads to F plus GHIJ. Now, that is a simple formula that even a first grader could grasp. So be patient. I'll share with you what it means, and you should be able to remember it for the rest of your life. Easily enough, A plus B plus C plus DE, awareness plus bias management plus client care plus dedication to equity is going to lead you to F plus GHIJ. We're going to spend the first part of today on awareness, bias management, client care, and dedication to equity. So that's where I want to start. And then I'll share the rest with you a little bit later. Starting with awareness. Awareness is, if you define it as Merriam-Webster, our favorite dictionary, does, the quality of, or the state of being being aware is really about knowledge and understanding something that's happening or something that exists. And awareness is really, I think, the key to everything. It's one of the reasons that I went into training, because I believe that when you learn something, you can't really unlearn it. And so a part of what I want to do today is to build your awareness and share some facts and activate the change agent part of each and every one of you. When you know something, you can't unknow it. When you learn something, you can't unlearn it, and it changes you from the inside out. So I want to share some things today, beginning with some background on the history of the home ownership struggles that Blacks have had in America. Most of you know that there has been a history of struggles related to where that have kind of gotten us to where we are today. So I'm going to open with a question. Why is it that the average Black household that currently earns about 60% of the income that the average white household earns, however, they possess only about 10% of the average level of household wealth of the average white household? Now, you may not have even known that the average Black household earns 60%, only 60% of the income of the average white household. But the even more surprising piece of that is that they possess only 10% of the household wealth of the average white household. And the question is why? Naturally, you would think that the income would be directly tied to the wealth. Well, the truth of it is that in America, there isn't that direct tie. It doesn't really exist. Wealth is actually accumulated over time, and it's amassed based on the access to things like stocks and home ownership and business equity. And wealth is passed down through generations. And with this country's history of slavery up through 1865, and then Jim Crow laws and various other segregational activities up through 1965, and ongoing civil rights struggles up through current issues, there really hasn't been a lot of generational Black wealth in this country. So that kind of leads us to the thought that there really hasn't been a lot of passing down of generational wealth. And as a result, this is where we actually stand. The other thing that we know is that home ownership is actually the number one source of intergenerational wealth in America. With home ownership comes a level of stability that is unlike any other wealth in America. Equity brings the ability to refinance, as you all know. It in a lot of cases, once you can take out an equity loan, you can buy a car, you can finance your kids' education, you can handle unexpected financial challenges that come up in life. You have this sense of stability, and it allows you to build and transfer intergenerational wealth that you don't have any other way. So without this ability to own homes, we really, as African Americans, don't have that ability to build that intergenerational wealth. So that home ownership gap that exists is a very big factor in the generational wealth equation. So as we continue to look at that, we have to ask ourselves the question, you know, why did that happen, and where does that come from? So I looked a little bit closer at that to look at some of the relevant historical facts. And I found out that our federal government really actively enacted policies encouraging white families in America to own homes, and was very active in participating in discouraging Black families from owning homes for many, many years. And you might not know this, I don't know how much familiarity you have with this, but things like redlining by the FHA back in 1938 created a risk rating system that determined which neighborhoods were safe for investments for federally backed mortgages, and Black neighborhoods were determined through what they called a redlining system to be too risky, and as a result they weren't backed for mortgages, and things like that caused issues for Blacks owning homes. And then in the 1940s, and that the post-World War II suburban growth was another issue, when new homes restricted purchase by Blacks by creating deeds that and covenants and community covenants that only allowed the property to be purchased by whites only, and that was, you know, legal back then. And then in 1950 there were a lot of well, up until 1950, the Realtors Code of Ethics prohibited selling a home in a white neighborhood to a non-white family. And so this was happening up through 1950. And even in 1944, the GI Bill, which was supposed to help all veterans buy homes, it was implemented in a way that really left over 1 million Black veterans unable to buy homes. And unfortunately, all of these things just continue to impact Black home ownership in America. And you say, you know, even up through that time and beyond, you know, the issues just continue to build as jobs moved to the suburbs. Poor Black families didn't have cars to reach the jobs, and they were left behind, and leaving the Blacks vulnerable, and wealth was basically unattainable. And there were highways built so that transportation was easier for people who had cars, but Blacks didn't have cars. And this went on, and for many years there were problems that were uniquely more that affected Blacks, and this went on. And then, of course, in 1968, the Fair Housing Act was passed, and that was the beginning of prohibiting housing discrimination on the basis of race. And that was a major factor that was begin to turn the tide. But I will state, and I will unequivocally say that systematic racism and conscious and unconscious bias are still negatively affecting Black wealth, and they are impacting home ownership in America even today. And to get us to today, I will tell you that we are still in a place of a crisis in home ownership for Black America. And I want to give you some facts regarding that before we transition out of the awareness stage. I want to tell you that from the research that I've done, that there is currently, right now, a 30 percentage point gap between Black and white home ownership in America. And that 30 percentage point gap is larger than it was in 1968 when the Federal Housing Administration prohibited discrimination against Blacks in home purchasing. I hope you understood what I said, that there is currently a 30 percentage point gap between Black and white home ownership. It is considered a crisis right now. If Black home ownership, if the rate of Black home ownership were the same today as it was even in 2000, America would have 770,000 additional Black homeowners. And what I'm saying to you is that the rate has been going down since 2000, so that the crisis is getting worse. Another fact that you may want to know, and I'm allowing somebody to enter right now, sorry, is that home ownership is lower for Black college graduates than it is for white high school dropouts. That might make you open your eyes for a minute. Black borrowers right now are less likely to meet the traditional credit standards necessary to qualify for a mortgage. And that right there opens up an issue. Now, even if we correct for all of the things that we know impact home ownership. So the research has been done by an organization called urban.org, and they have corrected for the factors that are known to impact, home ownership, like, marital status, and the fact that, Blacks are married later, and that there's a lower percentage of married Blacks than whites, and things like that, and credit issues, and they correct for those percentages. After they correct for all of those things, there's still a 17% gap that cannot be explained by these factors that are identifiable. That means that there's still 17 of this 30% that they can't figure out why Black homeownership is still so much lower than whites. Now, I throw this in to say to you that we have an issue, and to ask you to take a moment to think about what we can do about it. I ask you to also consider that maybe implicit bias and explicit bias are a problem here. And as we transition from awareness to our second factor here, our second climb success factor, bias management, I want you to think about how bias may be affecting and impacting the home ownership equation, and how there may be some opportunity for us all to make some changes that might positively turn the tide in this equation. So let's talk for a minute, and I want you to open your mics up for a minute and tell me, what do you know about bias? What is bias? Anyone want to just comment for a minute? Feel free to open your mic.
So when I think of bias, I think of either being for or against something. You know, I'm naturally inclined to either avoid something or I'm drawn to something. I don't know if that's the exact definition, but that's kind of what I think of.
Okay. Thanks, Lorraine. Anybody else?
Remember to unmute your microphone when you're speaking.
I think of just coming to something with the preconceived notion that a negative, maybe preconceived notion that, and maybe you don't even realize that you have a negative preconceived notion, but you are thinking about something in the wrong way because of your personal experiences or what you've learned, and a bias.
Yeah. Yeah, preconceived notion. Great. Great. So it really is an attitude or a stereotype that exists, and often it can be related to anything. It can be related to, sure, race. It can be related to age, gender. It can be related to religion, disability, anything you see, sexuality, weight, and many, many things. I'm thinking of all of these related to people, but it's not always even related to people. It can be related to anything. You can be biased toward a certain food or a certain, I'm biased toward chocolate, but if I see something that has chocolate on top of it, I'm ready to eat it today. But it's an attitude or a stereotype or something that you have a preconceived notion about. And it actually affects your understanding, your actions, and your decisions immediately. Now, when we talk about unconscious or implicit, sometimes they call it implicit biases, we're talking about something that's a little bit different from our explicit bias. So we're going to switch for a minute, because when we think about bias, and you see this big red X through it, because we often think that biases are wrong, and we also think that hey, we shouldn't be biased about something. But sometimes our biases are actually positive. We're biased towards something. We're not always biased against something. And biases aren't always bad. They don't always work against us. Sometimes they work for us, and sometimes they allow us to kind of sort through the barrage of stimulus that we get every day, every moment of our lives. We have to make decisions, and we have to be able to think quickly and decide whether we're going to stop or go, and we have to judge whether something is safe or not. And our bias is our judgment about things that has to happen sometimes immediately. Sometimes it works for us. And so this big X is not always true. But we're going to talk a little bit about these unconscious and implicit biases, because we want to move forward. Now, I want to say that in the class that we give, what we're giving you today is a kind of a 1-hour quick introduction to our class, where we will spend a lot more time on exactly what these biases mean and how our mind works. But today we're just going to tell you and give you this definition that implicit or unconscious bias is this prejudicial judgment or behavior that results from subtle mental processes that operate below a level of consciousness or awareness and without intentional control. Those words are key. It's different from the prejudice or discrimination or racist behavior that you might be thinking of right now. So it happens in a different part of the brain. It's not in the same part of the brain that our conscious discriminatory behaviors happen in. It's unknowing, it's unconscious. So the question really is, do these, this unconscious part of your mind, does it really drive your behavior? And can you really control it? And the answer is, it does drive your behavior. And no, you cannot really control it. That's the bottom line. So what I'd like to do is a quick quiz here, and I would like you to answer these questions that are up on your screen. And I want you to answer these questions based on what you really think. All right? And just quickly throw your answers up for this poll. Are you able to see them?
Yes, and it's what we think, not what we think research shows. This is what we personally, how we would personally answer this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not seeing too many of you voting, so I need for you to go ahead and vote on here. I'm going to have to end the poll very quickly. Can I get those of you who are on the line to vote, please?
So I just submitted my answers. Did they come through?
I've gotten 2 folks to vote so far. I need 2 more.
I'm hitting submit, but nothing, it doesn't go through. It let me click the answers, but it didn't let me, when I hit submit, nothing happens. So I don't know.
I'm having the same issue.
Okay, well, thank you
Submit.
for trying.
Okay, I've got 3.
Oh, you know what? I did it. Undid one of my answers, so then it wouldn't let me submit. Go back and look, Mickey.
Oh, there's more. I thought there were only 3. How many questions?
Oh no, they're 5. They're 5.
Okay, well, that's why. Let me hold one second.
Yep, going down. They're 5. Sorry. They're 5. Okay, now I'm seeing more. There you go. You guys are getting it. Great. Sorry, that was unclear. Okay, now I've got more. All right. So I've almost got everybody in. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. Okay, I've got most of you answering, and all right. So I've got more falses than trues on the first 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one I've got more trues than falses. Okay. So I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. This is what you guys think. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and share the answers. All right. Number 1, research shows that people holding hot drinks are more likely to be positive about an interview candidate than people holding iced drinks. Believe it or not. There was a study in 2008 by a Yale student. Research also shows that strong preferences exist when evaluating resumes based on the perceived ethnic background of a candidate's name. Research also shows a strong race and gender preference exists in prices being offered to customers by car salesmen. Research also shows that people are less likely to believe factual information when it's presented by someone with a distinctly different accent from their own. And the last one, US research shows that height has been the correct predictor of the winner of the US presidential election in 5 of the last 6 elections, and has been an accurate predictor of the winner of the popular vote in 59% of the time throughout history. That was back in 2003.
I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Wanda. You're going to kill me. I have somebody coming to my house to fix something between 12 and 5 today was the window. And of course I hear the knocking on my door right now. So I have to step away, but I'll be back as soon as I can.
That sounds Nikki.
Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So those are the answers to those questions. And what that really tells us is something that I want to share with you guys. I want you to think about these things, because this is more data for your mind when it comes to this kind of bias.
Wow.
Social scientists believe that we begin to acquire these prejudices and stereotypes deep in our minds as early as the age of 3. So we start early to inculcate these implicit biases that underneath drive our decisions and our thinking very, very early. We're not able to control them. They just begin to act within our brains. Once we learn them, these stereotypes and prejudices resist change, even when the evidence fails to support them. And what that really means is that when something happens that contradicts the already learned stereotype, we tend to reject it and determine that that was an anomaly and go on and hold on to the belief. So we hold on to those things. The third fact is that the dominance of white culture in America seems to may explain why people of color often do not show a strong bias favoring their own ethnic group, even when they think they do. So what they're saying is that we, even Blacks in America, let's say, we don't even favor ourselves in our inner selves. And that means that our implicit biases are against ourselves. And that's because it's a learned behavior based on our culture, our upbringing, where this implicit bias comes from. We don't even control it. We don't even prefer, understand our own biases against ourselves. Studies show that hidden bias often reveals itself in our actions. So we say one thing, but our behavior tells the truth. And the last thing is, while over 14%, less than 14% of American men are 6 feet tall or more, almost 60% of corporate CEOs in America are over 6 feet tall. What does that say to you? That's different. What does that happen? How do we promote, scary, but true. So moving right along, unconscious bias, implicit bias has been researched. It exists. If any of you have ever had the opportunity to take what is called the implicit association test by Harvard, you can find out a lot more about your own biases. In the class that we teach, we give people that opportunity and we talk a lot more about this. But what I want you to think about right now is, how might implicit bias affect you as a real estate agent? How might it affect your decisions, your interactions, your marketing, your advice, your responses, your showing? How might this thing that's happening in your mind impact what you're doing right now, today, in your jobs? how might it be affecting your industry? And I'll let you open up if you've given any thought to this at all and share before we go to some of these case studies. In a few words, anybody? Does this make any sense to you, what I'm talking about?
Try to think about this, you know, and look at the areas where, you know, we have some negotiable items like, you know, commissions or the cost to cancel a contract. You know, there are a lot of things that go into that. And I know I and a lot of us really try to do what we need to do to get the deal. So I'm really curious as to what other agents think about this.
Anybody thought about this?
I mean, of course I'm going to speak and my dog starts barking. Wait, 1 second.
Well, maybe you have something to say about this, Mickey.
I think Mickey's still dealing with her situation. So of course Melody's dog would bark and I started coughing when I tried to speak. So Barbara, or maybe Melody's coming back. Barbara, do you want to share until Melody's ready again?
Well, I am just embarrassed that I have so little interaction with minorities. I mean, I just don't have interaction opportunities. And even we're going to a new church, and the one thing my husband and I noticed immediately was that it's not racially mixed at all. We're having a problem with that, and it just seems like the community, everything we do, we're very comfortable in that we're only with whites, and we really think that's unfortunate.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a couple of minutes, guys, and share some things and some case studies and some thoughts to kind of help you think about how it may be impacting your industry. And I'll give you a chance to comment as we move through. I'm going to share, first of all, this one that you can comment on. So let's say a Black client of yours has been trying for 8 years to refinance a 7-bedroom home in Fairfax in order to help her daughter purchase her first home. Surprisingly, she cannot get an appraisal high enough to give value to give value her home high enough to for the bank to refinance her loan. As 5 white appraisers met with her and toured her lovely home, it was somehow valued too low for the refinance to go through, though there was nothing in the neighborhood to really compare it to. Finally, in year 10 of home ownership, 2 Black appraisers evaluated the home for refinance, and both valuations were high enough for the refinance to go through. What do you think happened? Why do you think that happened? Any thoughts?
Well, I guess I'm looking at it as in the first paragraph, there weren't any houses to compare it to. And in the second paragraph, maybe there were now houses that were comparable to justify the value. That's how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear from Paul.
I mean, I'm lucky to work with good appraisers who are very ethically and legally balanced. I'm just staring at this and I'm scratching my head why something like that would happen, Wanda. I mean, there's I mean, all things equal, that shouldn't occur unless there's some other pieces of information we're missing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just a lot unhappy about that. I mean, unless there's something I'm missing here. I mean, and the loan officer should have there's ways to get automatic appraisal waivers. So if you're not able to get an appraisal, you should check with an appraisal waiver first that it doesn't even involve a human being. So it's totally without bias, which is, I guess, one good thing in the industry is that the computer systems are removing some bias potentially. But beyond that, I'm very interested to hear more, Wanda. Very interested.
Yeah. So there are ways to get around that. Well, there was definitely a sense of implicit bias going on there, but I will share with you a case study. First, I'll share with you that finally this family, which happened to be my family, was able to get the refinance done. And we read this article recently in the New York Times, and this article just came out in September of this year, that Black homeowners face discrimination in appraisals that can make it dramatically harder for them to buy, sell, and refinance homes. And this article said that this is very pervasive. They were talking about and gave an example of Abina and Alex Horton in Jacksonville, Florida, that were looking to refinance their four-bedroom, four-bathroom house in a mostly white neighborhood, which our neighborhood was mostly white. Expected it to appraise for about $450,000, and it came in at $330,000. And once the wife was Black and the husband was white. And so Abina took down all the photos of her family, which was a mixed family, and she put in all oil paintings and pictures of her husband only, and her husband's family and his grandparents, who were all white. And she left the house on the day of the appraisal. And the new appraisal came in at $465,000. All of a sudden, from 330 to 465. And this research, this case study is just one out of several that this researcher is talking about, that documents that this is happening. And it just really touched something with me, because I know that when we were trying to refinance our home, we would hope and pray that we would get someone that would come into this home and, you know, would not see us as a Black family, would see us as, you know, just a family who wanted a fair appraisal. And when we finally got 2 Black appraisers, which we thought was so uncommon, we finally got a fair appraisal for our home. And it just solidified this situation. But I'll just say that's just one case study. I mean, I have several. And we get into more detail about not only this, but some more real estate related examples of what Black homeowners face, and in the whole process from buying and selling and trying to manage this industry that we're all here a part of. But I want to keep going because we're going to run out of time here in a few minutes. The next element of our formula, the C for client care, is something that is very important to, I know all of you. I know it's very important to Lorraine, so I'm going to let her speak to it. It has to do with the ways that we show care for our clients.
So I'll open it up too to others. But you know, the most obvious thing that comes into mind are, you know, our timelines, making sure that we don't miss the timeline for getting things done. So our clients miss out on, you know, being able to negotiate a home inspection report. I had some clients that I'm working with now to sell their own home and buy another home who initially came to me because they were thinking about selling their house and then maybe renting for a bit and buying a house that hadn't even had the ground broken on yet. So we are in very uncertain times right now. Real estate market is great, but with like Neiman Marcus and Brooks Brothers, some old firms filing for bankruptcy, I thought it was very risky for them to give up their home for a home that might be built if everything works out okay. So I shared that risk. And, you know, obviously it's their decision, but they decided to buy something that's already is in existence. So, you know, ways to provide assistance. It's, you know, listening, being patient. What else? You know, you can see the slide here, you know, taking an interest in people who haven't gone through the process before. I know we all have niches, but if we don't handle first-time homeowners or sellers, you know, maybe we can partner with someone who does. Do any other agents have something they'd like to share about the way that they show they care about their clients, or anything that you see on the slide, or something else that maybe we didn't put on the slide? Okay, Wanda, you want to continue down with the next one, or do you have anything else to say about this?
Well, I just want to say that I think that client care becomes even more important when with Black potential homeowners and homeowners, because they often have different situations, unique situations, you know, situations that are that they're often first-time homeowners or first-time home sellers. They often are coming into the situation having experienced unique discriminatory behaviors in the past. They need a different, maybe a different level of patience or a different level of assistance. And it's important that we, you as real estate agents, take the time, try to understand what their needs might be, and provide the additional assistance and additional resources that they have and that they need. And then from an implicit bias standpoint, make sure that you're not making assumptions about them that may not at all be true. So, you know, we'll get into more of that in our next, in our session that when we actually teach this course. We have an example of say one family that I interviewed that the wife was a young doctor, and you know, she couldn't get anybody to pay attention to her, a young Black doctor, but because she didn't look like a doctor, and I guess the agents didn't think she was worth their time when they first looked at her or heard from her, she didn't seem to get the attention of the agents. So she ended up walking out of a lot of places and not really giving them her business, when really she not only did she have the money, but she had the the resources and the desire to purchase a home. So we have to make sure that we're not making assumptions, which kind of gets into this second case study. It's a busy time for you. 3 potential clients contact you. 1, Jonathan and Sophia Taylor, newlyweds looking for a 2-bedroom townhouse. Althea Jackson, a first-time homeowner, home buyer, trying to relocate from Washington, D.C. to the suburbs. And Mary Sue Filigria, relocating to the area from Wisconsin. Who do you call first and why? Who do you call back first and why? And how might implicit bias affect your decision here?
Did you accidentally put Jonathan Taylor, the name of one of the owners of our company?
She doesn't know him.
I know him.
And she designed this, but he is one of our original owners.
No, I didn't know. No,
Of course I'm going to pick Jonathan. but anyway.
Anybody with TTR Sotheby's, we do have to answer that one quickly.
Yeah. Who do you return first and why? You don't have to have any other information? I mean, that seems weird. That would be all you knew, 3 phone calls. So, I mean, I would base it on a little more information than that, I guess. Like, who's the most likely to buy? But I can't tell from that list.
Exactly. So all you have is this information. So you make a decision.
I would call back who called me first. And the priority, whoever called first is the person I'm going to call back first. Who called second, that's who I would call back second. That's just me and how I handle everything.
I would call back whoever seemed most efficient and professional in the phone call because they're going to be the easiest one to work with. Like if someone called and talked softly and I couldn't understand them and they weren't paying, or someone said, hey, I'm looking to buy, and, and they were, I would call the person who seemed like they were just from their tone or their communication, they were the most efficient and professional, I guess, because that's the one who's going to buy most quickly in my mind. That's my bias, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey everyone, I haven't jumped in yet and I apologize because I'm on multiple Zooms all at once and I just got off my other 2. So I will jump in on this. I'm Rachel Lee from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm with Pyatt Sotheby's International Realty. Lorraine, it's nice to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'll jump in on this, and just because I typically carry a heavy volume of clients at a time, and I do have a team, which for me, this question kind of could deviate to a team. However, if I'm going to respond to a client and I don't know anything about any of them, other than the fact that I know who they are, I know what they're looking for, I would send out an email that is a general template, and I would blind copy the 3 clients that are here on the case study. And I would send the same exact email to all 3, just to show that I am dedicating my time and efforts to them. And it is important that we have a conversation as soon as they're prepared to talk about their real estate ventures. But I would keep it consistent, and I would make us I have templates already set up. So I would send them out a template through ActivePipe actually. So it's the same email with the same content, the same information. I probably would record a video, just say, hey, this is me, this is who I am. Hopefully we can put a face to the name with each other eventually and have a Zoom call. That's what I would do. I wouldn't pick one over the other. I'd hit them all at the same time.
I think she might get the gold star.
I'm trying to, just saying.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely.
No, she played the system because she said she would call them all at the same time, which wasn't the question. You tricked me. But I had to only pick one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And, it's kind of interesting because our initial assumptions and would all play in here normally. We would say, okay, the married couple, do they have the greatest probability of buying? And right there, we have negated the fact that, okay, African Americans don't tend to marry as much or as frequently, or they have a lower probability of being married. And then the fact that you have a first-time home buyer from Washington, D.C., and her name is Althea, she's probably going to be African American. You may automatically push her to the bottom of your return calls, thinking that, okay, she's single, she's first-time home buyer, she's coming from D.C., she's probably not going to buy an expensive place. I'm probably going to have somebody from Wisconsin. They're probably going to, you know, in a hurry. They're going to definitely need me to call them back. And, you know, I mean, you're going to have these things that are going to automatically trigger in your mind to prioritize things. And they're going to, you know, that's natural. That's human. That's how we make decisions. But it is also going to play into our biases, whether we like it or not. It's human. So the strategy that the young lady from Pittsburgh, what was her name again? What was your name?
Rachel Lee.
Rachel Lee?
Rachel Lee, yeah.
Rachel Lee. Okay, that kind of a strategy is the kind that we need to be putting in place. And that's one of the things that we'll hit in just a few minutes, but we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to move us.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out it's a little bit after 1 already. So,
okay.
Yeah, so we need
to move us to close. Okay, great. So dedication to equity is really something that I think you all are all more familiar with, and it has to do with making sure that we don't unconsciously steer our clients, that we don't unconsciously redline, that we don't unconsciously blockbust when we start encouraging or discouraging people by insinuating things that we don't mean to. And in our class, in this course, we will talk more about these and how we can unconsciously do these things and not know that our biases are coming through. We talk in the course about what kind of explicit actions do we need to take to lock out these implicit biases. And we talk about things like creating checklists and models and tools to nullify those biases and those tendencies so that we ensure fair and equitable client-sensitive options. And that's exactly what that procedure that the young lady from Pennsylvania was talking about does, because it negates and nullifies whatever biases your mind would automatically put in place to design something that gives everybody an equal opportunity to address you and to give you the information that you need to begin to service them. And I loved your response, and you know, hopefully to put together things that will help you lock out your implicit bias. And we talk a little bit more about that in the class itself. So with all that said, we've talked a little bit about awareness. We've talked about bias management. We talked about customer care. And in the class, we talk a little bit more about dedication to equity and how all that leads to fairness and a great hope for impartial justice as our goal. That's the end result that we're really looking for in our success formula. So we close the class with, what explicit action are you willing to take to ultimately impact your decisions and your interactions and your marketing and your advice and how you respond to your clients? And we ask our students to really begin to think about those things and start making movements in that direction. With all that in mind, this was an introduction today. And Lorraine's going to share with you what we think your next steps are. Lorraine?
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for joining us. So the next steps would be if anyone hasn't already completed the Harvard Implicit Association test, to go ahead and take that. Let us know if your organization, whether it's a brokerage or, realtor association, would like to host the full workshop and possibly for CE credits. You can reach out to Wanda at the info at, Wanda, tell us your email address again.
Yeah, info@thegetcoach.com, and we will put that up in just a minute on the last slide.
And then if you're not able to host the workshop, but you'd like to participate and register in the workshop, then please let us know that too. And then make a difference. Anything else as far as next steps? I know, but TTR Sotheby's International Realty has a work group, which Melody and Mickey are part of that. So perhaps we can host this maybe in Pittsburgh. Barbara, maybe you'd like to reach out to Washington Fine Properties and see if they'd be willing to host this. You could, lead this at your organization.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right, so then we have the last slide that has our contact information. So Wanda is handling any inquiries about the workshop, the recording. So if you missed part of this, you want to share this with someone, Wanda can help with anything dealing with the webinar or the workshop, and then I'll deal with anything that deals with real estate transactions themselves. So thank you everyone for participating. Wanda, can we just send the link to everybody who was on today?
Well, what we can do is if anyone is interested in moving forward with more, having any more information, we'll ask that you get in touch with us and give us a call, and we'll talk about how to move forward. If you feel like you really need some part of this or a way of moving forward with the video included, we'll consider sharing this link to the video with you so that you can show people what the course is going to consist of. This course today our intention was to introduce the concept, so it's about an hour. But the course that we'd like to do that has the full, complete, all the material is more like an hour and a half to 2 hours long. So this is not all of everything that we want to do for you. And there is a price, per person price to purchase the entire course. So we do have to let you know that.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for coming, and we hope it was informational. Please put in the chat anything you would like to share with us regarding this, any suggestions you have, if it met your needs, if you think we can get this course certified in your area for CEUs and you'd like to recommend anything, please put all that information in for us, and we look forward to sharing it again or sharing the full course with you at some point later. Have a great afternoon.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 There we go.